as you know, the economy has slowed down 3 years ago. Since then, we don't have the same amount of revenues coming in to the states, and states are really struggling. There are some states that have a rainy day fund set aside for situations like that, so they don't have to make a severe cuts. Other states didn't, and California is one of them. I fought for 7 years to have a rainy day fund. We never got one going because our legislators just always like to keep spending the money and not to keep some money as in reserve. But the thing is that what you have to do is when you see a situation like that appear, that where all of a sudden you have less money available for education, yes, people then take those programs that they think are the least important out and eliminate them. But this is exactly what I was talking about, that we got to always make the people aware that being healthy is just as important as learning English and learning math and learning geography and learning history and all of those other subjects. So we should really put the pressure on our schools to keep physical education. If they want to cut, they should cut all of the programs equally, but not to pick on one subject like physical education and just take it out and all of a sudden have the kids not exercise. Because the fact of the matter is that the day our children are 10 pounds, a 10-year-old is 10 pounds heavier than they were 20 years ago. And that eventually will have severe consequences, because we are already seeing the enormous medical bills that we are paying for because of our kids being unhealthy, and because of our kids suffering from diabetes and other kind of disorders and sleep disorders and all of those things, all because of a lack of exercise and because of a lack of of good nutrition. They get bad food sometimes in the schools and so on, and that's why we in California were really doing groundbreaking stuff when we changed the law so there's no junk food anymore in the vending machines in the schools. There's no sodas anymore allowed in the public schools in California. We have healthy lunch programs and things like that. So that's, I think the key thing is to lobby for keeping the exercise classes. But if you're not successful with the lobbying of keeping those, then you should go and find outside help. What we did in California a lot of times was we brought physical education teachers to the school, and then we go and we went one class after the next, take the kids through 30-minute, jumping jacks and running and all kinds of simple exercises that doesn't really take much equipment, but just to exercise. And so I think the important thing is for you to just do more work, get more volunteers involved, and help those kids to stay physically fit. That's the only way, because they will lay off physical education teachers if they're cutting the budget and if they're cutting on physical education. That I can guarantee you. Okay? Just keep on exercising, never stop.
Arnold, you have many books about bodybuilding. My personal favorite is Education of a Bodybuilder. It just totally changed my life for the better. I'm a personal trainer and I own my own gym because of that book. You have always been my idol. My question is, which book about bodybuilding is your favorite?
Well, I think that the most comprehensive book that was ever done on bodybuilding was the Encyclopedia. The Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding. I worked on that for 5 years. And even though the Arnold Education of a Bodybuilder was a very successful book, it was the first bodybuilding book that made it on the New York Times bestseller list, and it sold a lot of copies, but it was more an autobiographical kind of material, and only half of it was kind of how-to. But the encyclopedia was really the most comprehensive one, and so that still today is selling a lot of copies. It's really amazing after all of these years, and we've upgraded it after 10 years after it was published first, and then it's continues selling. And I'm right now finishing negotiations for a contract with the publishing house that will be publishing my autobiography. Which I will be writing this year, and hopefully we will get it done by the end of the year, so for Christmas time or around that time it will come out. But this is going to be kind of not talking so much about the training, even though bodybuilding will have a big part in it, but it will then talk also about the entertainment, about the show business career, talk about the political career, and me coming from Austria, and having been made in America and all of those kind of things. So it would be a great book to work on.
Do you feel it's still going towards the mass monsters at the cost of aesthetics in terms of the judging panels? And do you feel that is the right route for it to take?
Well, I mean, it's always kind of like everyone sees things different. And but one thing we know for sure, it's always kind of been that it takes a combination of different things in order to win. You know, you have to be having great proportions. You have to be very muscular. The size of the muscles always matter. The separation of the muscles that matter. You know, the V-shaped body that always was kind of what people idolized. And then also the way you pose and the way you display and show your body is extremely important. So, but every judge would tell you a little bit something different that they like about one bodybuilder versus another. But that's why you have 7 or 9 judges sitting there, and then you just look at the scores together. You throw out the best vote and the worst vote, and that's how you narrow it down and come up with the winner. So I think they've done a really good job yesterday. Sometimes I'm not happy with the results, but yesterday I thought that they were really good. They've made some good choices.
Owen Gibson asked, how'd you get from an awesome actor to governor? And which one did you think you could contribute more as?
Well, I think that I would say, first of all, how did I get from acting to governor? I just decided from one day to the next. You know, that when they had the recall election in California, I just decided from one day to the next that I'm going to be the next governor, and that I can do it better than the typical politicians that only think about, you know, serving their party. If it's the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, I always felt that politicians should serve the people, not the party. And so I wanted to run and be a public servant. That's why I always said I'm not seeing myself as a politician, but I see myself more as a public servant. And my father-in-law, I remember who is Sergeant Schreiber, who just passed away last month. He always talked about that we should all go and serve the people, go out and serve the people. And he started the Peace Corps and the Job Corps, Legal Aid to the Poor, VISTA, all of those different programs. And he went and gave a speech at Yale University, and he said to the students, tear down this mirror. Tear down this mirror that makes you always look at yourself, and you will be able to see beyond, and you will see the millions of people that need your help. And I remember that so well when he gave that speech, and it had a real impact on me, because that's exactly what it is all about, is not just to think about ourselves, but to look beyond that mirror and to go and think about the people that need help, people that are struggling, and so on. And so this is why I was kind of committed, even though people thought I was crazy, to give up the millions of dollars every year from the movies and all this, and to jump into this race, and to actually spend a lot of our money ourselves on the race. But you know, I thought it was worth it. I mean, I thought, even though, you know, people say, oh, this guy lost $150 million in the last 7 years by not doing movies and by, you know, having spent $35 million on various different campaigns and so on. But, you know, I thought it was worth it because, as I always say, that every single thing that I have achieved in my life is because of America, and I think that it is absolutely necessary for each one of us to jump in there and to give something back. Each one of us has a talent, whatever it is. If you help some kid with their reading, or if you help another kid with their physical education, or if you help another kid with just, you know, showing them love and affection, because they maybe don't get enough at home, or whatever it may be, I think we all have an obligation to do something for our community and something for our state, something for our country. And that's why I jumped in. I didn't hesitate about it. I just said, this is what I need to do. We got to straighten out the state of California. And that's why I jumped in. And it was one of those races that 2 months later, I was governor of the great state of California. Now, I always enjoy everything that I do. Otherwise I wouldn't do it. And so I enjoyed being governor as much as I enjoyed being a bodybuilding champion, and I enjoyed it as much as being an actor. I really had a great time with all the struggles that were there in Sacramento at the Capitol, fighting with the Democrats and fighting with the Republicans, and because I was always kind of more in the middle, and there were endless battles, but I always enjoyed it. And of course, when you are in politics, you also get attacked a lot by the press, because you can never please everybody. I mean, 20% of the people hate their mother, so how can you please everybody? There's no such thing. So, I mean, but I didn't even think about that. Like I said, it was not about me. It was about moving the state of California forward, and I was very happy that we got the things done that we got done. If it is environmental things, we really became great leaders in the environment, making commitments to reducing greenhouse gases and building the green technology sector in California, and bringing jobs back and stimulating the economy, and fixing some of the things, the political systems that didn't work. So there was a lot of great work that went on, and there was also a lot of frustration of things that they couldn't get done, because I was surrounded by Democrats. And so when you're the only Republican that is going in there and saying, okay, I'm going to be fiscally responsible, and we're going to be fiscally, tough here, and only spend what we have, well, when you're surrounded by Democrats that felt differently about all this, it's kind of like, you have to compromise. And so some of the things we didn't get done, but I was very proud of the 7 years that I served there. And like I said, I will continue serving the people even though I'm not in office. So I'm looking forward to doing more work in that area. What I said as Conan was crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women. That's what I said as Conan. Of course, as Arnold, I would say it a little differently. But I mean, the whole point of it was that Conan was not always very philosophical. Conan was much more into action. Action now, and of course I'm also into action now, but in a different way. But these are all great lines that was written by John Milius, and it goes right along with the "I'll be back" line and "Hasta la vista, baby," and all those kind of lines that were in the movies.